Hi, this is Sean Bowen, Executive Director of Barnabas Ministries. I want to thank you for listening to this brief John 17:23 leadership video. In this brief video today, I'd like to share with you four values which are core to the John 17:23 movement. Now, before I talk about these four values, I need to define what I mean by value. Value is kind of a strange sounding word, and so I think it'd be helpful for me to describe that. A value is really a belief that guides our behavior. It guides what we do, how we do. And so many times, the values that we have in life that guide us are really underneath the surface of our attention. We're not really thinking about them all the time. Sometimes they're part of our character. So, for example, you might value integrity. And that if you value integrity, then you'll find that you tell the truth, that you're good to your word, that you want to do what you say you're going to do. Or you might value authenticity, where you're genuine, where you're not really hiding anything, that you're honest, and that when people see you, they see the real you and not some other you or some projection of what you want to be. They actually see who you really are. Those are two examples of values, the sorts of beliefs that are core to us that really help guide our behavior. Because if you value integrity, you're going to be a truth teller, and people can count on you to tell the truth. Or if you value authenticity, people know that they're really talking to the real you. And so in an earlier video, I talked about vision mission. I said a vision is a picture of the way the world will look, and it gives the why an organization or a movement exists. And a mission describes the path that you're going to take to do that. And so in the John 17:23 movement, the path to authentic spiritual and relational unity is connecting pastors together into John 17:23 groups. That said, it's really important that the how we connect them to those pastors together, the way that as leaders in the John 17:23 movement, we conduct ourselves and influence and work with other people. These values are very, very, very important. And so I want to share with you four values that have developed in Barnabas Ministries over the years. And I encourage you to pray into these and to adopt these. The first thing is, we really want to see these groups grow everywhere around the world, but we use a very important term, and this is the first value, and I call it as God leads and directs. Many companies, if they want to develop a new market or sell a new product, they'll hire a marketing staff and they'll build this organization, and they'll go decide, okay, we want to sell shoes, for example, in Botswana, or we want to sell computers in Tanzania, or we want to sell something in some other country around the world. And so then they'll try to figure out how to get in there and make it happen, and they'll do all this work and research. But at Barnabas Ministries and in the John 17:23 group movement, we encourage and we want to build a value of listening to God and let Him lead and direct where this movement goes. And so when we say as God leads and directs, we know that everything we do at Barnabas Ministries, everything in this John 17:23 movement is based on relationship. And so you might meet somebody somewhere who has a connection with a bunch of other pastors, and based on that, you'll develop a real relationship with that person, where you may just take them as for who they are, and God will lead and direct you to another location. And so you're not trying to manipulate that person. No, you're just letting God lead, letting the Holy Spirit lead you. So this movement grows as God leads and directs. I don't have a plan for most of the world because I don't know anybody in that part of the world. But the fact that, for example, when we come to Botswana, we come because we've met some people like Johannes, or when we went to Kenya, we met George and Monica Malenge. It was through those relationships that God brought that group started. And so let God lead and direct you as you pay attention to how the movement goes into your nation or your region. That's the first, as God leads and directs. So we don't try to rush ahead of the Holy Spirit. We let the Holy Spirit lead and direct this movement through the relationships that get established. Now, the second value is equally important, is that we're really encouraging the development or the fostering of what I call a movement instead of an organization. And what we mean by that is, for example, here at Barnabas Ministries, we are not here to build a big company and hire lots of people and all around the world. No, we are very small. We will always be very small. I don't ever see us hiring people in Africa or India or South America. No, we know that because of the mission and vision, that others will adopt that vision and mission because God has given it, and they will run with it. And so we just want to foster a movement. So we'll create tools and resources like this video or training that helps encourage and inspire others to launch a movement, because it's really not about us. This movement is not about Barnabas Ministries, or maybe it may not even be about you. It's really about the pastors coming together. They are always the center. They're always the center. So what we're looking to do in this movement, again, is to be a movement and not just build a giant ministry or giant organization. Those require lots of resources and funds that are just too big. And so, most movements, especially the ones that make a big change in the world, like the church, spread, and they spread locally. The next one, then the third important value, and this is critically important, especially for you as a leader of the John 17:23 movement in your country or in your region, is that we encourage you to influence pastors, do not control them. Depending on the country or the organization, many pastors already feel controlled. They may have demands from their church structure, their overseers. No, we are what I call invitational. We will invite pastors to participate, but we don't control them. We don't manipulate them. We don't twist their arm or shame them or guilt them. No, that's not how the Holy Spirit works, and that's not how this movement works. This movement works because there's something better when pastors come together and are connected in groups. It's just good for them. It's good for their church. It's good for their community. So the focus is always on the pastor, and therefore we do not control them. We do not manipulate them. I keep saying this. I can repeat this over and over. It's important. So the point is to influence, and influence is done by invitation. You might say, brother, I would love for you to participate if you're willing to come. It would be really good for you. And let the Holy Spirit guide. Let the Holy Spirit lead that person, but continue to invite. Which gets to the fourth one, and this should be clear now. It'll be obvious as to why I say this. The fourth value is that we really value relationships. This ministry, this movement, is really very similar to the movement of the disciples that Jesus called. When he called the disciples in Mark, in the Gospel Mark, it says he calls them so that they could be with him and that he could send them out. It's both together. So he can't send them out until they're with him. And that also means they're with one another with Jesus. See, it's not just the individual with Jesus, it's them together. Now, that ragtag group of disciples was very diverse. I mean, think of it. You have a zealot and a tax collector in the same movement. That's pretty shocking. And they would have been at each other's throats and very competitive. But no, God, through the work of Jesus on the cross, is reconciling the entire world, all people, to himself. And that happens through relationship. And so this movement is always going to be fostered through genuine relationship. These are not relationships in order to get something from the other person. See, that would be manipulation and control. No, the relationships are genuine. So when we get together, we always ask, how are you doing? How can I be praying for you, brother or sister? We have genuine care and concern for the pastor, not so that they will make the movement better, but we just have a care for them. And that's so very, very critical. You see, it's possible to become manipulative and say, well, let's get this pastor to do that. We need somebody to do this. So let's manipulate them so they can do something for us. That would not be a healthy relationship. No, this value of relationship is valuing the relationship with the person for the person's sake, for the pastor. And so those are the four values. As God leads and directs, number one, we're really encouraging the second value, that this is a movement and not a big organization. So try to refrain from building a big ministry. That's not what this is about. This is really about the pastor. Third is that we value influencing pastors, not controlling and manipulate them. And lastly, we value relationships. This movement of John 17:23 is modeled after the relationships that Jesus built with the disciples. Thank you so much for listening. I pray into this for you, and consider the values that drive you as you have the John 17:23 movement launch into your country. Blessings to you.